Hi, I'm Dolly.
I'm Layla, and today we're talking to Jill Barron.
So, Jill, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You bet. My name's Jill Barron. I'm a third-generation cattle rancher, and I'm from southern Alberta. And I was a school teacher for 5 years before I made the arena my classroom, and now I help educate horses and people, and I get to travel around and give all sorts of clinics and do all kinds of fun, exciting equine events and travel the world essentially. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. So, what is working equitation?
Working equitation is a discipline that's fairly new to Canada. It consists of 4 phases. So there's a dressage phase, an ease of handling phase, which is judged obstacles. There's a speed phase, which is obstacles at speed. And then the 4th phase, which is one you don't see very often, but we're working on including it some more, is a cattle phase, which is kind of a team event, and it's a mixture of penning and sorting that we do here. In North America, it is an all-inclusive sport, so any breed and any tack can do working equitation, which I really love. So if you have a horse, you're able to come out and take part in this sport. So any breed, any tack, and there's 7 levels. So it encompasses a walk-trot level all the way up to the master's level, which is I think a very high degree of technical difficulty executing the maneuvers and exercises that we need to do at master's level. It's all ridden one-handed, all the changes are flying changes, and it's really tight geometry and really incredible horsemanship. So working equitation is fairly new to Canada. I think our national organization, so Working Equitation Canada, was formed in probably 4 years old. COVID year always messes me up with my years, but 4 or 5 years old, we've had an organization in Canada. So it's really gaining popularity, and it's one of my favorite things to help people increase the relationship and their horsemanship with their horses.
Yeah, that sounds really neat. Yeah, that's so cool. Now I want to do it with my horse.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about the history?
Oh, sorry. Yes, the history of working equitation, it was developed in Europe by 4 founding countries, which were Italy, Spain, Portugal, and France. And then from those 4 countries, it's branched off into a lot of other participating countries. And the first European championships were held in 1996. So it's really a relatively new discipline, and I love how much momentum it's gaining and popularity. And there is a governing association for the world. So it's called WAWI, which is World Association of Working Equitation. And just this past year, Canada has been accepted into the WAWI organization. So the World Championships are coming up in Spain in 2025. So we're looking at putting a Canadian team together to go to Spain. Hopefully, I mean, they're big goals, but you need to have goals to work towards and gain popularity and gain momentum. So.
So, how did you get into working equitation?
This is a good question, and I'm not really good with years, but I think it was 2015. There was no working equitation in Canada whatsoever yet, and I had a client and friend of mine, Jackie MacArthur, who raises Australian stock horses. And she was going to be in Texas with her horses, and she phoned me one day and said, I think you should go to this show with my horse. It was a working equitation show called the Pin Oak Charity Show, which is like one of the oldest horse shows in Texas. So it was an honor just to go to this horse show. But anyway, she was going to be down there with her horses. She said, fly down and go to this show and let's go explore it. I think you'll be really good at it. And I said, sure, why not? I didn't know what it was, and flew down, competed, did very well. I was really happy with the results. I was, flying by the seat of my pants trying to figure out how it all worked, because there is quite a bit of detail and rules behind the sport, but that's what makes it so technical and so fun, I think, is that there's lots of guidelines to follow to help better your horse and progression. So I went and showed, and I was hooked instantly. It was honestly an instant fit for how I already trained a horse. The idea behind working equitation is to create horses for work in the field. And my main goal with a horse is a horse that can do many different jobs and can go confidently, move cattle, brand calves, rope, show, go on a parade. I mean, I think horses are built to do lots of different things. So the working equitation was an easy fit because you have to ride your dressage test, so you have to be technical and accurate. Then the obstacles, which are very much working obstacles, a gate, a bridge, a side pass rail. And the obstacles are the same all over the world.
Okay.
So if I go compete in Portugal, the measurements and the obstacles are all the same. Which, from a trainer and coach perspective, I think that's a great thing for people's brain because they know what they're going to see. So people who are a little fearful of showing, I know what the obstacles are going to look like. It helps people be more comfortable. And then from a training competition standpoint, you know really well how to prepare your horses because you always see the same things in different order and stuff like that, but you know what you're going to see. So you can really prep a horse to be good at their job when you take them to a show.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is actually so interesting, though.
I'm not done, actually. Can I keep going?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I actually was talking so much I forgot the question was. So I went down and competed and loved it, and then I came back and I had a facility just by Spruce Meadows, and I started teaching it. So I was one of the first places in Canada to start bringing working equitation instruction to our wonderful country, and it really grew really fast. And then one thing led to another, and I thought, I might want to judge this, which I'm really happy I did get my judge's card because it really helped me understand the sport, to coach it better and compete, and it just helped me host shows and host events and get the ball rolling in Canada. So that was really exciting to kind of help get the sport off the ground and get it going. So I got my judge's license in the United States. So I was carded in the States first because we had no national organization in Canada. And then it really took off. So I give clinics all over North America and judge shows. And our first year was our goal. We were going to have one working equitation show. And we had it in September, I think, that year, and it was sold out, so we did a good job promoting it. And it really, the next year we wanted to host 3 shows, and it's just gaining momentum. And we have a really big show coming up actually in Saskatchewan. It's in Moose Jaw the last weekend of August, called Cross Nations Cup. So it's a really exciting event, and I get to go there, and I'm giving a cow clinic, I'm judging, and I'm also competing. So
Oh, man.
it'll be very busy.
Yeah, you're going to be a busy girl.
So, I'm a dressage rider, so I'm very interested in like the dressage element and like what the obstacles do with the horses. But can you explain some of the connections between working equitation and classical dressage?
It's a good question. So there's a lot of similarities between classical and working equitation. I like to compare working equitation to the term functional dressage. I love classical dressage. I believe it's the training foundation that every horse should have, whether you ride in Western or English tack. Dressage to me just means horsemanship, body control, transition, speed control, shifting of weight, all those things every horse should be able to do. So the movements, though, change a little bit when we go into more of a working discipline, and working equitation is definitely, obviously, as it's named, a working sport. So the exercises need to just change a little bit in order to accomplish the working goals that we need. So the basic foundation is all very similar. We want horses to do pirouettes. There's lots of flying changes at higher levels, obviously. Lower levels, I always like to include them. The walk trot, the starting canter levels are very popular. Those are the biggest entries in our shows are the lower levels, which is great because it gives riders a curriculum to try and climb the ladder and get up to the master's level. But the foundation to me of all of it is classical maneuvers, but we need to tweak them a little bit to put a little bit more it's smaller geometry is kind of the big takeaway. So you have to tweak a little bit from what you do with your classical to achieve the smaller geometry. Like at master's level, we'll canter 4-meter circles with like a flying 8 or around the drums and flying changes in between. And the geometry doesn't get that small in classical. So you have to ride just a little bit different to achieve that balance to get the accuracy you need for those exercises.
I'd imagine you really need to have your horse between both your hands and legs to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and that's one of my main things is at all times your horse is between your legs and between your hands for success in anything you do with a horse.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. And can you tell us a little bit about the horse that you ride for these events?
You bet. I have lots. I'll grab them. But the first horse we'll tell you about is Casaco. He's a 17-year-old Lusitano, and he was born in Portugal. And we were Canada's first Masters champions, which was a very big goal of mine that I actually never thought that I would get to. So it's pretty exciting. And I've shown him in the States too. We've won some Masters stuff in the States as well. And something very exciting about him is that they made a Breyer horse out of him. So this is Casaco. He's a buckskin gelding, and I've owned him since 2016. There was a breeding farm in Texas that shipped him to me to help promote working equitation and the Lusitano breed in Canada. And then we kind of developed this bond and partnership that's unreal, and I bought him for myself. And we've got to do a lot of amazing things, him and I. So he's a very, very, very special horse to me. And I almost get emotional talking about him. He's been a pretty big teacher for me. He's taught me a lot and partner, but I mean, I've got to do some incredible things with that horse underneath me, and I'm forever grateful to him for that. So I have a young Lusitano gelding. He's 7. So he's my up-and-comer Masters horse. So I've been showing him, and he's a lot of fun. He's my favorite ranch horse. I rope on him. I do everything on him. But he's big, and he's black, and he's just a gorgeous dude. So I'm really excited about him. And then I actually have a Lusitano stallion that I just imported from Portugal, too. Ooh. Yeah, he looks like a real-life spirit. He's a buckskin as well, and he's coming 5, and his name is Geronimo.
Ooh, I like that name.
Yeah, so a pretty exciting lineup of horses for me to be bringing up through the working equitation fields. So I always want to have a young horse coming along. So Casaco's at Masters level. Lazaro, which is my black horse, he'll be showing. I'm hoping to bring him in at level 5 or 6 this year. He's showed at level 4 last year and won a lot. He did really well. And then Geronimo, he'll show next year, and he'll come in at level 2. And so that's the cool thing about it. I was a school teacher for a while before I made the arena my classroom, and I always wanted to develop a curriculum for riders to say, okay, grade 1, here's what you want to do with your horse. Yeah. That's why I like dressage so much, because it's like, here's your exercises for this level you need to be good at. And then you get a scorecard. So this working equitation with the 7 levels has the curriculum developed for me already. So okay, for level 1, here's what I need to be good at. And then you get scored on it. And I always tell people, don't look at progressing until A, your horse is ready, and B, your scores are around, 65 to 70. Because if you're not achieving the scores, you're not accomplishing those elements that your horse needs to be for that grade. So it's good to bring young horses along. It really helps build confidence. Another thing I like about it, apparently I can talk about this forever, sorry, is that horses have to be 4 years old before they can enter. So it really has the well-being of the horse in mind, and then a horse has to be minimum of 7 years old before it can be a Masters horse as well. And there's other age requirements in between, but it really helps horses develop and mature and come into their own and we're not too hard on young bodies and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So those are my crew for this year. Every once in a while, usually I sprinkle a young quarter horse in and bring a young quarter horse to show, and then usually I show them kind of lower levels, and then they go off into other
Oh yeah.
Western disciplines. I like to rope a lot too, so they become rope horses. And but it's really my favorite place to start bringing colts out to get exposed, because it's pretty much a low key, low stress environment for them.
Yeah.
And they get to become really confident working horses. So
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
So, what would you say was the most exciting performance of your career?
okay. Sorry, I should stop handing this back to you. The most exciting performance of my career, there's one that sticks out to me. I don't know if you guys got to do any digging on social media or anything like that. Have you looked at any of my stuff yet?
Not too much.
Not really.
But I was told about this.
You're told about it. Okay. That's maybe why you're asking it. So Kasako and I, we somehow found our way into performing with a garocha. Now, a garocha is a big long stick, essentially. It's a working tool that the Portuguese and the Spaniards use to work cattle. So cowboys over here, we take ropes out when we go work cattle. They take a stick or a garocha. Garocha means pole in Spanish. And I did a performance at Heart of the Horse a long time ago. I'm horrible with years again. And I did a colt starting competition there, and they did an evening show. And she said, would you ride your Lusitano in the evening show? And I said, sure, why not? But I had 3 broken ribs up underneath my left armpit. And I thought, I don't know if I can do this. And the producer of the event saw me riding him and said, please, would you ride him? And I said, okay, I'll do it. Like, I'll make it work. And we did a performance with the garocha. But it was just the garocha, my horse, and it was very well received. And my reason for doing performances like that and getting these horses out into an exhibition like this is so people can see the Lusitano. To me, they're an incredible breed, an incredible animal, and until you watch them move and perform, and they're bred to fight bulls.
Yeah.
So they're incredibly athletic. So I've taken him, and performed at rodeos and all sorts of different things, but mainly to get him in front of crowds that might not ever see a Lusitano. So I did this performance at Heart of the Horse, and people were like, oh, that was really neat. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I had a friend of mine who they do a lot of performances said, we should add some fire.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So we added some fiberglass stuff to the end of the garocha, and I started doing it, lighting the pole on fire. Not the whole pole, but fun fact, I have had one performance where the fire got so big it climbed up the stick and burnt my hand. Yeah, I have a picture of it even burning my hand. But I did not let go, and I finished the entire performance, but I came out and my hand was all blistered, and yeah, that's not even my most exciting performance. So I'll keep going, long story short. So we usually light the garocha on fire, and then I light a circle on fire, and the circle burns, and then I go inside the circle and I canter my horse around and turn onto the garocha in a burning ring of fire with the thing on fire. So anyways, I go down to Denver to the National Western Stock Show, which is a really cool event in Denver. It happens in January, and I've rode there a couple years, and they have this event called Boots in Business. So there's 1,200 people in the middle of the arena, and they left a track around the outside of the arena, and they had a whole program for this event where people came in, and there's trick riders who ran around the track, and then they had a herd of longhorns that ran around the track. And so I was supposed to come in with Kasako and ride around and do some fancy tricks, like he does Piaffe Passage, Spanish Walk, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so here's where it gets exciting. We use what we call an E-match to light the garocha on fire. So it's soaked in fuel, and then an E-match is like a little explosion that goes off in the fuel on my stick, like a match.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually I put the pole in fire to light it, but this was remote detonated.
Oh.
So this guy, who's a pyro guy, we call him, he set the fire off on the end of my garocha, and we never practiced it. And I asked him, I said, can we please just run through? I just wanted to see it light so I knew how, like, where to have my horse, how my horse would respond, because I know him pretty well. And he's like, oh, it's just this little poof. It's no big deal. It won't be, it won't be too scary.
He probably sees a lot of big poofs.
Yeah, not really. But they like imagine when you light a match and it goes, like it kind of flares.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had this much fiberglass soaked in fuel with an explosive in it. Okay, so the pyro guy says it's no big deal, it's small, and in all reality, they're expensive. So he didn't want to burn one without having a purpose to burn one. So I'm like, okay, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we ride out there, and the track is probably as wide as this booth, and there's literally people sitting right there. So the track is literally as wide as this booth, which is not very wide, and there's people, like there's 1,200 people in the arena. And we came out, and I had the pyro guy, I set the garrocha in front of me with the fuel, and I was backing my horse up, and I was going to bow my head, and then he was going to light it. So I was going to get my horse far enough away from it, and then he was facing it. And I was backing away, and he lit it early, and it went like it was big. And my horse was trying to exit stage left, and I kept him together, but it was very exciting to not know what was going on and have to manage everything, and then have 1,200 people in front of you. And so then on this little tiny track, we lit a half ring of fire too, and it burnt probably 3 feet high. Which is way more fire than I usually have. So I had this explosion, and then he lit this fire on the ground off with an E-match too. So it went, it looked cool. The people were like, oh my gosh. But I was like,
Holy Toledo, what is happening?
yeah. So then I was supposed to canter my horse in a circle around the garrocha with all this fire and stuff. And you know what? It turned out. But that was definitely one of the most, I had to think on my feet and react and keep my horse together and deal with the fire. And so that's by far one of the most exciting performances of my career. So, yeah, was that what you were looking for?
Yes.
Something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. We love when you're talking, because it's like that's an interesting story, and even us, it's like, wow, that's really cool. And yeah, sorry.
If he saw fire, I think something bad. He would not
Exit. Yeah.
He would exit it.
It's crazy. Like, he's kind of a spooky horse too, but the fire wasn't as big a deal as I thought it was, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably because he's with a rider, he really
Yeah,
trusts.
and we trained him. I used food to train him to the fire, but yeah, it's been interesting. The fire hasn't bugged him as much as I really thought it would. But anyways,
Yeah. And what would you notice would be like a...
so I can see you guys there.
Oh, good. So what would you say is like a benefit for kind of cross-training with working equitation?
The benefit of cross-training is the skills and the relationship that you develop while accomplishing all the tasks you need to do to be successful in working equitation. It is, to me, I've done almost everything with horses, like English, Western, jumping, dressage, cow work, roping, rodeo. I'm really lucky that way, that I have a really diverse background, and I think I draw something from every little piece of that, and that's really formed my teaching and my horsemanship. But it is the best discipline I have found for cross-training and building horses. I always really want a really confident horse, and it allows them the time and the space to be confident and not be super pressured, but still have to execute accurate, detailed maneuvers. And I love the working aspect to it, because for me, just the dressage part, just the geometry, just the transitions is kind of boring for them.
Yeah.
I love it, but horses need more than that, than just 20-meter circle, 15-meter circle, 10-meter circle, flying change. So the obstacles offer the working aspect, where all of a sudden that 10-meter circle makes sense, because we're going to circle this barrel, then we're going to do a downward transition, pick up a new lead, or a flying change, whatever it is. So the obstacles offer the purpose that the horse needs for the geometry to make sense. And the obstacles can be scary, they're not decorated to be scary, but to a horse they can be scary, and it really tests people's relationship. With anything you do with your horse, it should be the rider says, let's go. That horse should be like, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, let's go. And I don't know if you got to see any of my clinics here. There was even some horses that were scared to ride between two poles.
Oh, yeah.
You know, these tasks are very important that horses can go do this stuff. So as far as cross-training benefits, I don't think there's anything better for a horse than be able to, you know, do a dressage pattern, do some work with obstacles, and then the speed element is so important to me because everything can be nice and calm and contained, but you really test your horse when you say, okay, let's go a little faster.
Yeah.
And then you got to slow down. You got to use your brain. So that speed control to me is essential to a horse's development and well-being. And, you know, in the end of the day, all a horse really wants is to go somewhere.
Yeah.
That's all they want. So in that speed, they get to go and have fun and go through some obstacles, and it really is good for them to be able to do that. And riders, both horse and rider. So as far as cross training, I don't think you can beat it.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it sounds really good. It's like that's more well-roundedness, like especially for a horse too, or like young horses. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
So what would be your pump-up song?
Now, I have to disclose this. I had a little heads up from Jeff Orr. He said, they stumped me on what's my pump-up song. And he's like, I couldn't think of anything. And so I had some time to think about this. And I can't even come up with one. I don't listen to a bunch of specific music before I do anything. I kind of get in a zone, and I don't... It's all kind of in my head. I don't want anything else to kind of get into my thoughts. So I really, honestly, I don't have one. I think before I go do something, I have enough of my own pump up. I don't want anything else to kind of
Get in the way
or increase that. I'm good at getting myself to that stage instead of listening to music or doing something else. So I know that's kind of probably a boring answer, but I listen to like anything and everything, and I like all kind of music. And my own pump-up song is usually just swinging a leg over my horse and getting ready to go do what I need to do. And I'm really a methodical, like a thinker. I like to kind of think my way through things and make a plan. Now with horses, it doesn't always go according to plan. Good horsemen are able to deviate and find their way around, you know, explosions and things that happen. But my pump-up time is used to think and visualize and organize and get ready and really plug into my horse. So, sorry, don't have one.
It's all good.
No, it's all good. And I mean, the origin is because me and Layla are dressage and show jumper. So before we I guess when we walk around to warm our horses up or something.
Walk or going over your test.
Yeah.
You're listening to music.
Yeah, it's just kind of to distract from anxiety and to be like, "I am the tiger."
It's funny.
Okay, let's go.
That was the song that was in my head from high school basketball, college basketball days. It was "Eye of the Tiger."
Oh yeah.
But you know what's funny with the music is that, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, let's face it, and it's way different because we didn't have AirPods and we didn't have the availability of the technology. I mean, this might age me a little bit, but I mean, I love my AirPods now, and I listen to music sometimes when I'm riding just to, but before an event or something, I'm kind of in my own head. But we never rode with headphones. We had, have you ever seen a Walkman?
Yeah. Wait, I'd have to see it.
See, you know what a Walkman is. So it's like a cassette. You know what a cassette is?
Yes, yeah.
So the cassette went in that. So they were like this big. So I never put one on my belt or.
Oh, okay, that's
yeah,
okay.
or like a Discman, a CD player.
Yeah.
So growing up, we didn't have availability of, phones in our pocket and AirPods or light earphones. So I kind of grew up. We didn't have music to listen to when we were riding, so it just hasn't become a thing. But I do notice a lot of younger generation now, AirPods are always in. They're listening to music a lot of the time now. So anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with riding. I ride a young horse, and he gets set off by little things. So I try to make it a point to ride with music on a speaker to get him used to different things.
Yeah.
He thought ABBA was pretty scary.
Yeah.
When I had my arena, so I owned an indoor arena and boarding facility for like 10 years, and I had a big cabinet with a great big speaker, and I had an old iPod loaded, and it was the same playlist for probably 10 years, but we always had the music pumping, and the horses really got used to sounds and commotion and stuff like that. So, I mean, we did have that music, but, as far as AirPods and earphones, those are a couple years old.
Yeah.
They're fairly new.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely people are different. Like, you might want to just zone in with nothing in the way, or maybe you want something as a distraction. Like, very different. But yeah.
I know someone who listens to classical music before they go and jump.
Classical is actually really good to listen to, because if you think about your heart rate and what your music's doing to your heart, classical is designed to kind of slow you down, which is a really good thing because most people get ramped up. If you're listening to like rap music and kind of heavy music, that's designed to kind of get you pumped up. And for me, like before I go play basketball, I want to be pumped up. But before I ride a horse, I want to slow my roll. I want to slow myself down.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I find music, people use a lot of music to deal with like anxiety or nerves and stuff like that, and that's okay. But when you're out showing, you don't have the availability of the music, so you need those tools to deal with your own thoughts and your emotions on your own, without the music. So that helps you control your own self when you're showing and competing. So
Yeah. Well, that was really interesting. Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
Jill.
Thank you.
That
That
was
was really fun.
thanks
Yeah.
for doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something different too. Like, even though like we're English and we do kind of more of the common stuff, it's interesting to like have something like this, because I mean, of course, it's not really that much heard of until you kind of like brought it along. So that's really cool. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank you guys for tuning in. See you later.
We still need to work on an outro.
Yeah.
We started January 1st, so we're
Yeah, you're doing good. That's awesome.